Thank you. Moving on to number 7, who is coming from Sue Pink, who is a parent and carer and is member of the Ceredigion Parents and Carers Forum.
Are you aware of the discrepancy between legislation or guidance and the reality of support for children and families, which causes such distress for families? If so, how do you think this can be addressed?
I'm going to go to Ellen first.
Well, I am aware of some of the tensions between what the rights of the individuals, what legislation expects, and what the guidance expects for those who are delivering services in. Sorry, I should get up and see you. Because people in this community have been to see me in my time as the Assembly member to raise some of the issues about how legislation is put into practice locally or not put into practice locally. Some of those issues, of course, refer to how either local authorities or other organisations are funded or are placing enough priority on delivering on the statutory requirements that they have, and very often individuals have to struggle to get local authority or others to deliver on those statutory obligations. That shouldn't be the case. It is wrong that is the case, but it is a challenge for those of you who are parents and carers, and those of us who are elected politicians, either on a council level or on an assembly level, to try and support you in getting what are your statutory obligations. No, your statutory rights, I should say that.
Elizabeth, please.
Much the same, I have to say, as what Ellen said. Law is actually open to interpretation, and unfortunately, when bodies haven't maybe got the funding or don't want to put the funding into something, then they very often interpret law, sadly, to suit themselves, or it might be challenged in a court of law. So it's a difficult area. I know that you've had personal difficulties. Ellen and myself have dealt with a particular case where the interpretation of law did not go in favour of the family. So it's a very, very difficult one, and it's always open to challenge, I'm afraid. And everything is down to political will, and just to make sure that there are the people on your side fighting your battle for you and your family.
Luke.
Thanks. Well, I mean, it's a problem that is not only in this area, but in the law in general, as Liz said, that the law is open to interpretation. And there's a big difference between legislation and guidance and what actually happens on the ground, and that is across the legal spectrum. What we do need to have is greater clarification and disambiguation of the law. I mean, this is the sort of issue that I'd really like to have a chat with you afterwards to get a full grasp of the issue at hand here. But as I say, we need to be making sure that the law is as tight as possible.
And question number 8 comes from Nick.
In other parts of the country, they have good policies and practices. For example, in North Lancashire, 100 people with learning difficulties have 16 hours a week work because they have very good job coaching. What will you do to make sure we learn from their good practice?
Right, since we only got 5 minutes to Ellen to answer, I'm going to ask her briefly and very brief with an answer.
Well, I think that that in Wales we need to learn good practice from elsewhere, whether that's in England, Scotland, Ireland, or anywhere really. If something is working well somewhere else, then we need to learn the lessons from that and hopefully put it into practice in Wales. As I said earlier, in terms of jobs and getting people with learning difficulties into jobs, then we could look at legislation to do that in Wales. And if we did that, then we would be the first in the UK to do it, because there's good things happening in Wales as well.
Well, again, being brief, I can't really add very much more to that. If we see that a scheme is working particularly well in one part of the country, then we should, if possible, implement it across the board. And as Ellen said, we can implement legislation and create incentive for businesses to take people on in the private sector and in the public sector.
Elizabeth Evans.
Guess what? I agree. That was brief, wasn't it? I completely agree with everything they've said. Yeah, training into work, vital. Thank you.
Thank you for your very brief answers. I have an extra question, which is coming from Thelma. It's to do with day services.
Come behind, please, Claire. Caravan Megan has to close because it will not be safe. Soon, why can't we have a new building? I have been upset about it. Elizabeth.
Right, I shall repeat the question briefly. Canova Megan has to close because it will not be safe soon. Sorry. Why can't we have a new building? And a new building. I have been upset about this. Ellen.
Well, I think we have a number of situations in the county at the moment where certain services and daycare facilities are being withdrawn from the people who need them. If that is to happen, then alternatives have to be found that are equally available to people, and the council or whoever is leading on any of these issues needs to make sure that they are fully involving the individuals who use and benefit from services and involving them in the decisions and in the planning for any alternatives that are available. But this is a difficult time for funding for all public services, but we do need to make sure that those who are most vulnerable, most in need of support in our society, are those who continue to receive it.
Elizabeth?
Thank you, Thelma. That's a good question because he's right around the corner. I've had many meetings with the manager and social services regarding the future of Canova Megan. I'm a regular visitor to Canova Megan. I know the service users very well there. The problem was that Canova Megan needed an extension. It needed to be newer, and I spoke to the manager at length, and the issue is that whilst there are a lot of service users, obviously in the Cardigan area, and they come in from Carmarthenshire, they're in and out of the centre. There's not a large group of people in the centre at a given time, because obviously they're going out to do other things, other projects. But what I've said, Thelma, to the Director of Social Services and to the manager, that whatever happens, we have to find a facility, a good, up-to-date facility for the service users of Canova Megan nearby, and that you have to be fully consulted. I understand that they are looking to have one nearby, a proper centre with new facilities. So whilst the building that you've got in Canova Megan, they're not going to spend the money on it, we must make sure that the facilities that you have are up to scratch and that they are available, but more importantly, that you're all fully consulted, because that's very, very important. So there will be a change, but they need to bring you along as well.
Luke?
Well, again, I can't add very much to that. I mean, funding is particularly difficult at the moment with the economic situation in Wales and in Britain as a whole. But and what we've got to do is do our best to find support for that from government, from charities, and try and fully explore all possible solutions available. And as both Ellen and Liz have said, we need to ensure that there's a full, proper consultation with that, so that everybody knows how it's all going to be moving forward.
Thank you. Moving on to Roger Coleman's question, please.
Good afternoon. The All Wales Forum of Parents and Carers of People with Learning Disabilities are delighted to add their support to over 40 other disability, illness and care charities in the newly launched The Hardest Hit campaign. This is a national campaign against cuts to disability benefits. Government is planning to cut a total of £9 billion from the benefits of disabled people and their families. What is your stance on this issue?
Very briefly, candidates, could you answer the question? And Luke Everett, please.
Right. Well, as the as the Conservative candidate here, I do feel a great responsibility. I think what we do need to be doing with disability benefit is closing loopholes. I appreciate that this makes it very difficult for people with genuine disabilities to claim them with more paperwork. But what we need to be doing is closing loopholes to stop benefits cheats from stealing money from the government and from people such as yourselves. So we need to undertake a full review of the legislation available. But I do appreciate just how difficult it is at the moment across the board.
Well, I would support the campaign that you've noted there. I think that what the UK government are proposing is a bit more than just closing loopholes. And if we aren't very careful, then a number of people who are the most vulnerable in our society, who need the support of the public sector in order to do everything that we've talked about already this morning, whether that's involving themselves in training, getting more independent living, getting proper housing for their needs, that all of that could be undermined by some of the changes that are being proposed by the UK government on disability benefits. And we need, and certainly as a political party, Plaid Cymru believes that the most vulnerable in our society should be deserving of support and have a right to that support. And we should withstand some of the proposals from the UK government that are trying to, that will undermine the support for those who need it most.
Finally, very briefly, Elizabeth.
Very briefly. Okay. Well, as you know, from June 2010, there was a coalition government who have announced these cuts. Now, I've been doing the casework for Mark Williams for 6 years, and I know that these assessments, these cuts, have been coming into play a long time before May 2010. I know it because of the casework on my desk. So it's not, unfortunately, they've branded, the Lib Dem Tory government in London have branded it benefits cheats, we're going out to get them. Well, benefit cheats are very few when you think of the people that do need whatever it is, DLA or any kind of benefit. So I support completely what you're saying. But I would also say that the current way that they assess by paper is not good enough because it disenfranchises a lot of people that should be having benefits. So whilst I completely accept responsibility, and there has to be collective responsibility when you're in government for the cuts, I have to say as well, this is being implemented way before May 2010. Fully support you.